Let's see if that works. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the class. Sorry I didn't send out anything. I didn't get a chance, but apparently you knew the right address. You knew how to get to the class. Thank God. Okay. The class today is about Passover, and part of my goal is to help make Passover not a scary word. Okay, it's not a bad word, and it's not supposed to draw fear into the hearts and minds of any Jew who hears the word. So the let's begin. Let's begin at the beginning. There is most of what makes Passover scary is the idea of cleaning, and there's different approaches to this. The Aruch HaShulchan, who wrote his famous book on Halacha over 100 years ago, so he wrote that he said, and this is all a paraphrase, he says something to the effect of, we already know that that the laws of Passover are much simpler than people think. However, since our women, he's talking about women over 100 years ago, are scraping the chairs with toothpicks to get the chametz off, even though obviously that's not necessary. Since they're doing that, there's almost no point in trying to stop them. And similarly, I've heard Rabbi David Orlovsky say a very similar idea. You could tell people till you're blue in the face that Passover cleaning is not spring cleaning, but you can say it over and over again, and nevertheless, people still freak out, and so people still do this whole spring cleaning. And so he says there's no point in doing that for a rabbi. You know what? You're doing spring cleaning? Fine, make your spring cleaning your Passover cleaning. Go ahead. You're already, cleaning out the cupboards. So while you're cleaning out the cupboards, make sure there's no bread there. No chunks of bread, no crumbs, whatever it is. So like that. So that's already a place to start. I've spoken to two people just today. None of them in our community. One person told me they're going away for Pesach, and she needs to hurry home so she can start cleaning before Passover. I said, "Why are you cleaning before Passover?" She says, "Oh, I'm not going to be home, but there's somebody else who's going to be staying at my house." I said, "And you're going to clean like crazy because somebody else is staying in your house? The whole point of going away is that you don't have to clean." That's why some people go away. There's nothing wrong with not cleaning. There's no mitzvah to clean a house. That's not what Passover is about. There's an idea of not having chametz in your possession, but that's not what everybody's doing when they're cleaning for Passover. They're doing all kinds of other cleaning that has nothing to do with chametz, and certainly not the kind that could create a problem. So I told her, you don't have to clean just because somebody else is staying in your house. You can clean one room and check that room because there's a mitzvah to check a room. So you can clean that one room. It could be the easiest room in the house when you're sure it doesn't have any chametz, like the bathroom, or if you have a walk-in closet and you're sure nobody eats in it. Hopefully nobody eats in your walk-in closet. So you can just clean that and you fulfill your obligation. That's one.
Rabbi, curious. I asked Rabbi Hollander last year about it, and he was saying that it should be a room where you would eat technically. Is that something you've heard about?
I'm not gonna especially publicly contradict Rabbi Hollander.
No, I'm just saying if you've heard. Obviously,
I have not heard that. I have not heard that. Okay.
Because I think last year I wanted to do the bathroom, and he's like, maybe try doing a room that we did the living room that we don't really eat in.
Okay. All right. Works for me.
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess that if you don't usually eat in the living room, and it's there's a good chance it'll be probably an easy room to clean.
Yeah.
Probably, right? So yeah, do that. I've never heard anybody say that it shouldn't be the bathroom. But again, I haven't heard everything. So maybe actually today, maybe what we'll read will tell me otherwise. Because what I plan on learning today, I wasn't entirely sure. I didn't know how it would go over. You know, you have to know your audience, right? You have to know who you're talking to. And so, I don't know how scholarly we should get, depending on who shows up for the class. I didn't know how much depth we should go into. But then I realized, you know what we can do? We can do something that's actually very timely. We can look at the laws as they are brought down in the Shona Halachot. What's Shona Halachot? It's a 3-volume work written by Rav Chaim Kanievsky of basic halacha, basically a summary of the Mishnah Berurah, and he adds a few customs here and there. And so I think, considering that people are still sitting shiva for him, I think it's very appropriate that we learn halacha from his perspective. So we'll see. We'll do our best. It's in Hebrew. I'll try to translate what I can, and we'll go from there. I'll try to keep it as smooth as possible in English. I'm going to share the screen so you can all. Oh, where is it? That's weird. That's weird. When I push this button, usually I have options of what screen to show you. So why isn't this showing up? I don't know. Let's try it again. That's not it. One moment. Technical difficulties, please stand by. So weird. How did that happen? Okay, basic screen. Okay, well, do you see this, right? Is there text on your screen? Okay.
Yes.
I did something right after all.
You do a lot of things right.
My goodness. All right, so I apologize. Hold on, let me just close this door. Although I think most of the noise is gone. Do you guys hear the noise also?
Is it some kind of scratchy sound?
Okay, could be my voice. Who knows? All right, Hilchot Pesach. All right, so these are the laws of Pesach. This was in the 3rd volume of the 3-volume work. It says, and it starts off by this particular siman is Tav Chof Tet. So that's 429. It says she'ein noflim al paneihem b'chol chodesh Nisan. We don't say tachlim. We don't fall on our faces literally on during the whole month of Nisan, which is coming up. But not every single halacha is going to be about that. But that's the title of this section. First of all, he says sholim v'dorshim b'hilchot Pesach kodem lePesach shloshim yom. So for 30 days before the holiday of Passover, there's an idea. This goes all the way back to the Talmud, that you should ask and dorish and think about and investigate the laws of Pesach 30 days before Pesach starts. There's actually a question in Halacha whether that's true for all holidays or whether that's only for Pesach. We're going to see in a few moments what Rav Chaim Kanievsky's opinion on that subject is. So it says, Shloshim Yom, 30 days. You're supposed to start learning about Pesach on Purim. That's fascinating. One of the most beautiful things I heard is that, the first law of Pesach is, as is mentioned in Shulchan Aruch, the first law of Pesach is the fact that you're supposed to have food or wheat or money for food set aside for the poor. That's the first halacha of Pesach. And when do you learn that? When you're having fun on Purim. When you open up the halacha, you're supposed to learn the halachas of Pesach. The first halacha that stares at you right in the face, hits you right away, is that you're supposed to take care of the poor. You're having fun, you're having a good time. Remember, there's also the poor to take care of. So that's one of that's an interesting thing. But anyway, Purim is exactly 30 days before Pesach. So on last Thursday, you should have started learning laws of Pesach, and we in shul we did. We started learning the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch about Pesach, and already we're learning about B'dikat Chametz. We're already into it. Anyway,
It was fun fact. It was really cool. Like Benji and I were learning like a random Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We pulled it out and we pulled a random page out, and it was on Friday night, and it turned out to be a law of Pesach. And then Benji's like, "Oh, aren't we supposed to start learning it now?" I was like,
Beautiful.
"That's really weird."
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Hashem is guiding you. All right. What you did, by the way, that's a famous. When you open up a random page and it tells you and it directs you. They call that the Golel Hachidah. The Chidah would sometimes open up a random book and from the page that he was opening up to, they'll tell him if he was doing the right thing or not. Anyway, interesting. Anyway, so let's keep going. Who hadin b'shar Yom Tov? So remember, I said there's a difference in halacha about whether that's true for every Yom Tov or only Pesach. So he says this is true for every Pesach. Nami dorshin kodem lachen lamed yom. So 30 days before any Yom Tov, we start learning its laws. But the opinion of the Bra of the Vilna Gaon, the first day of Sivan. Remember Shavuot, which is what we call a Atzeret. So Shavuot, that holiday, which is coming up 50 days after Pesach. So you have it's on the 6th of Sivan. Okay, it's on the 6th of Sivan, and it's gonna get loud here. Just a moment. You know what? I think I have enough air. Just a moment. Who needs air, right? You know, they say too much oxygen is no good either. All right, so anyway, so then Lagon says for Shavuot, there aren't that many laws for Shavuot. You need what laws do you need? The laws of how to make a cheesecake? Right? The laws of Shavuot are true for all Yomim Tovim. So you need just a few days. He says you can start learning from the 6th of Sivan. So 5 days of studying the laws of Yom Tov is going to be enough. So, but then there's other opinions that say you should study for 30 days. Who rock the Pesach mishum? So sorry. There are those who say, and this is what I was saying earlier, that this 30-day period where you have to start learning the laws of the holiday before the holiday is specific for Pesach. Which is why it's so important that we have this class now. You have to start learning the laws of Pesach 30 days before Pesach. Why? There's a lot of laws. Kigon tvichat chitim, how to process the wheat, vafiat hamatzot, how to bake the matzah, v'galat kelim, how to do hagala, how to kasher your vessels, ubir chametz, how to check for chametz. She'elu im ein osim otan kihilchaten. If you don't do them correctly before Pesach, you don't study the laws in detail. You can't fix that on Pesach. You come into your house, you didn't know that you were supposed to get rid of the chametz in your house. You come into your house on Pesach and you're like, wait a minute, there's something wrong. I'm pretty sure all other nights you're supposed to eat matzah and chametz and matzah. But this night is different when it's not supposed to have any chametz around. So how does chametz show up here? Oh, we're supposed to get rid of it. I forgot all about that. So that's going to be a problem. You're going to be overwhelmed with and anxiety-ridden about all the things you have to do. I was mentioning before how I spoke to another lady today, also a single mom, recently divorced, and she's telling me how anxious she is, how much cleaning she has to do. I said, remember, you she doesn't live in our community. She has another Rav. I said, you can ask your Rav, but I'm sure there are, you don't have to be so meticulous as usual in your cleaning. Yes, you have to get rid of the chametz. Yes, you have to find kosher Pesach food, etc. But, there's, it doesn't have to, all fall at once. You can do it gradually, little by little. It can be a lot easier. And that's kind of what the same idea in learning the laws of Pesach. It's supposed to calm you down. You're supposed to be more aware of it and go into it with different kind of spirit, which we talked about, by the way, last year. We spent a lot of time before Pesach last year talking about how you really need to, more than anything else, feel Pesach. You're supposed to feel the freedom that we experience. You're actually, that's one of the chiyuvim, one of the obligations of the Seder, that everybody's supposed to see atzmicha. They're supposed to see themselves as if they are being liberated. So you have to build yourself up to that. You have to learn about that. It can't be that you're too busy with the meal, with the biscuit and the chicken soup and whatever else, and you didn't have a chance to sit down and absorb the Seder. We're gonna have another class later on in the Seder. Don't worry. But,
There's no like idea maybe that like you're like a slave when cleaning, and then you're like Pesach comes and it's like freedom. I'm being
I think I
no,
think about it.
nothing.
I don't think so. That's not the right kind of freedom. Pesach has a lot of obligations on the Yom Tov itself as well, and we are supposed to be servants. We're just servants of Hashem. But I remember I think I might have said this story before. It's a true story. We were cleaning for Pesach one year, and we had the kids cleaning their room, and they were young still, and we heard them singing in the room. One of the kindergarten work songs. The work, dig your dig your shovels deep, dig, never go to sleep because it's work every day and every night. So it's that's not entirely accurate that we're putting you to work at Pesach so you know what slavery is like. But it is a cute idea. Anyway, so back to this. So like we said, there are opinions that this whole Shloshim Yom, these 30 days before Yom Tov, it's specific for Pesach. Masha Enkein B'Shar Yom Tov, but regarding other Yomim Tovim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, all the other holidays, a few days we should go them. Akol Panim B'Yom Tov Ufa, and even on the Yom Tov itself. L'kulei alma tarech lish'ol grosh b'chol Yom Tov. Each holiday, you're not supposed to. Oh, I know the laws of Pesach because Pesach already started. I can go on cruise control now. I'm free. I don't have to worry about the laws of Pesach anymore. No, even on Pesach, you should study the laws of Pesach. Even though I've already cleaned, I don't have any comments. It's good to learn. Why? Shehi takanat Moshe Rabbeinu. This is a rule of Moshe Rabbeinu. Afilu im lamad yom shekodem tzarich gam ke lilmod b'chag atzmo. Even if you study the 30 days before the Yom Tov, even on the holiday itself, you should learn. Ve'ein yotzin b'ma shekorim beinenu shal yom shetzarich lilmod halachot ma she'asur ma she'muter. It's not enough just to learn it the days before. Continues halacha bet. Achshav, nowadays noagim lidush b'Shabbat Hagadol. Nowadays, there's a custom, and it's not so much the custom in every shul. It's the custom to look into the laws of Pesach on Shabbat Hagadol. This week, Shabbat Hagadol, this year, sorry, Shabbat Hagadol is almost a week before Pesach, right? Pesach is Friday night, and Shabbat Hagadol is going to be the Shabbat before, almost a whole week. Nevertheless, that's really what Shabbat Hagadol, the famous Shabbat Hagadol drasha, the rabbi used to say was supposed to be about. Was supposed to be the laws of Pesach. Over time, in most communities, it became more of like an inspirational, sort of like trying to get you into the mood of the holiday more than the laws. But nevertheless, there are communities where the law is what's focused on during that time. Shabbat Tshuva, the Iker Lahor, and then Shabbat Tshuva. The main idea is Am Tarchi Hashem Lilmod Hamasa Asher Yosin V'Hayina Dine Hagala Biur Chametz Afiat Matzot V'Shar Hilchot Pesach. Really, you're supposed to learn the laws. And with Pesach, there's a lot of laws to learn. V'chein b'Shabbat Tshuva Lidrosh V'Pnei Hilchot Yom HaKippurim V'Chag HaSukkot. Really, the Shabbat Tshuva now became this whole like try to get everybody inspired to tshuva, etc., etc. That's not what Shabbat Tshuva used to be. Used to be, he says it's even nowadays, it's an opportunity for the Rav to go over the laws of Yom Kippur, which is the Shabbat, which is right after Shabbat Shuvah, and the laws of Sukkot. And as you know, there are a lot of laws of Sukkot. So that was the idea. I'm not sure, especially nowadays. I think part of the reasons, besides people are just generally seem to be emotionally out of touch with what the holiday is supposed to feel like. So that's maybe why rabbis want to focus on that. It's halacha is often seen as dry, although I don't think it has to be. But aside from that, halacha is also readily available. You don't have to go to the Rav to get the halacha. Right? There's books and books and books and lectures and online and Torah anytime and this and that and the other thing. There's so many opportunities for you to get the laws of Pesach that you don't need to get them directly from your Rav. There's recordings on YouTube, right, etc. All right, let's keep going. Halacha Gimel, as we said before, minhag liknot chitim chelkan ba'anim. There's a custom to give out wheat to the poor, letzorach Pesach, for the needs of Pesach. Minhag kodam hu mizman haGemara. This minhag, by the way, is before the time of the Gemara. That's how ancient this was. V'yacholim b'nei ha'ir l'chapot zeh. And he says the people of a town can enforce this. In other words, it's a tax. Right? Let's say it another way. Nobody is exempt. And if people find out that you haven't been giving to the poor for the needs of Pesach, that can actually come out of, can be taken out of your account, one way or the other. You can be billed for it. Okay. Let's get to something else. It says at the end here of Halacha Gimel, Afila Talmud Chacham apatur mimas. Even the Talmud Chacham, who's ordinarily, the Gemara says the Halacha is a Talmud Chacham whose primary job is to learn Torah, like Rav Chaim Kanievsky's was, so he's exempt from most taxes that even the regular people of the town have to pay. You still have to do this, has to give money to the poor for their Pesach needs. I'm a Prima Gadim. Prima Gadim writes about this. Prima Gadim is another halachic text from a couple of hundred years ago. All right. V'shir hanitina tarach laharich al kol echad lefi mamono. For how much you should give depends on each individual personally. It's not like a one set price. Oh, you give. I gave $20. I'm good. It depends on your money. It depends on what you can afford. Ella hamish tamtin atzmam melitan kemach aniyim yesh avam biyadam. So somebody who decides not to give, there's a great sin in their hands. By the way, it's very unusually strong language for this book. Yeah, I think that's enough about that. Not only is it dependent on how much money you actually have, but it's also it also you should give each poor person according to their needs. I gave him $20. Isn't that enough? $20 might have bought him, one bottle of wine and a box of shmura matzah, maybe. But that didn't fulfill the obligation. By the way, in the end of the previous halacha, he tells you what the final obligation is. The whole point is for the poor person to be samech, should be happy. You think he's going to be happy with $20? Maybe some people are, but this gift for the poor of on Pesach is not just they should have their minimum fulfill their minimum obligation, and they should be able to buy a brisket if you're eating a brisket. They should be able to buy a nice wine that they can enjoy the 4 cups. And not just we know in outside of Israel, it's not just one set of 4 cups, right? There's 2 sudarim, so there's more to think about. So the poor of the local poor certainly need to be supported in time for Pesach. This should not be such a strange idea. We have this in many contexts throughout Halacha, that we try to support the poor as much as possible. We did that on Purim. We talked quite a bit about that just, a week ago, right? And so this should not be a surprise. Even the Gentiles do this, by the way. Lahavdil elef havdalot, they do the same thing. Right? There's all the soup kitchens are open, Thanksgiving time, and on their holidays. Protecting the poor is not supposed to be just a holiday tradition. We're supposed to be taking care of the poor all the time, and especially on the holidays when they have greater needs, in theory. All right. Then he talks about the halacha that this section is named after. That's the halacha of not saying tachanan during this month. Let's see. He talks about we don't need that. The im achal yom tov be'emtza shavua. Let's go to halacha yud dalet. If Yom Tov falls in the middle of a week, I feel it be Yom Vav, even on the 6th day, which is actually as similar to this year. Ein omrim motzi Shabbat milfanav vehi noam. So there's this prayer we say of vehi noam that we don't say when there's a Yom Tov that the next week. By Yom Tov we don't mean just any holiday, because Purim is not a Yom Tov. Hanukkah is not a Yom Tov. Yom Tov literally only applies to holidays when there's malacha that we're not allowed to do. In other words, it's a biblical obligation to keep a particular day. That becomes a Yom Tov. So when Yom Tov falls within the week, even if it's at the end of the week, nevertheless, we don't say this prayer of Vehi Noam. Okay. והתקדוש אבל אם חל על פי ביום ו' אומרים במוצאי שבת מלפניו ויהי נועם. So אבל אם חל ביום ו', it does happen on Friday. Okay, I'm not really clear how that fits. Anyway, משכימין בבית הכנסת בערב פסח כדי לגמור סעודת קודם ד' שעות. So you should on erev Pesach 4 hours before your meal. Hold on. Mashkimim, get up to go to shul and erev Pesach. Kedei ligmor sudato. Oh, yeah. So you should go to shul early on erev. Right. Never mind. I understand this. All right. So you should finish. You should finish shul and all your morning obligations erev Pesach early enough that you're able to finish your meal, right? Your last chametz meal, good 4 hours before the 4th hour of the day. So let's say it's a 12-hour day. It starts at 6. So by 10 o'clock, right? I don't know the exact times this year. I haven't done the math yet. But if it was a 12-hour day, then in other words, sunrise is 6 a.m., sunset is 6 p.m. And then your 4th hour of the day is 10 10 a.m. 10 halakhic, 4 halakhic hours is the same as the 60-minute hours in that particular case, and then therefore by 10 o'clock you need to make sure you finished eating your last chametz. In that case, so obviously that adjusts depending on where you are and what time of the year it is, and it's obviously springtime always because Pesach is always in the spring, and so that's that at least helps in that situation. All right. Ein omri mizmor latoda. You don't say mizmor latoda be'erev Pesach or v'lo b'yimei Pesach, and not on Pesach either. Why? One of the main reasons is she'ein toda karva behen shalach mi toda. And part of the toda offerings includes bread, and that's chametz, and you can't bring chametz as a sacrifice on Pesach or even erev Pesach. Make things too complicated. So therefore, we don't say mizmor toda, which takes the place of those korbanot, the toda offerings, as we talked about on Shabbat. Ve'ein omrim aleph. What's aleph? I don't know. V'lam natseach. Erev Pesach. V'lo b'yom tov. We don't say it erev Pesach or Yom Tov. No, where do we say Ashra? What's okay. But anyway, we don't say Lam Natseach. Okay. Noagin laharbot ktsat b'achilu ushtia yom acher hachag. So this might be unique. You might have never heard of this custom before. He says there's a custom to increase a little bit how much you eat and drink on the day after the holiday. Why? Because this is called Isru Chag. What's Isru Chag? You don't. We don't say tachanan, a minhag sholo latanot. We don't have a fast day. The whole Isru Chag, and the whole time it's called Isru Chag. Now, what's Isru Chag? Isru Chag is the time when, in theory, you can make up a chagiga, a holiday offering that you weren't able to make on the actual holiday, right? So, in other words, you had an animal and you were going to bring it to the Beit Hamikdash for Pesach to sacrifice it, and lo and behold, something happened. Traffic, right? You ran out of gas. You couldn't afford to buy more. The Soviet rockets fell in your direction. Whatever happened, God forbid. So all of a sudden now you need to you can't bring the sacrifice. So and you can't move anymore. You can't really travel. It's Yom Tov. So what do? So after Yom Tov, you can bring the holiday still. You can bring the holiday offering, and that's called Isru Chag. For a few days, not forever. You're given a week or whatever to do that. So that's why we sort of celebrate that as part of a holiday. While you should still eat and drink and be merry even after Yom Tov. There's a day after Pesach isn't just what's it called, Rumpelnacht or whatever. It's not just a night for cleaning and putting things away. You should also celebrate still. You should enjoy and have some more matzah pizza. Before you put away the toaster. All right, so we go in Tana Bo Talmud Chacham in okay. Okay. He has an interesting situation here where somebody doesn't know what day it is. They're maybe lost in the desert or whatever. Misha Enu Yodea Minayan Ayamim Ben Nisan. He doesn't know how many days are left in Nisan with Sivan. Ayin V'Sif Din Vav. So look over there in 344, Halacha 6. Kesa Yinaheg Im Amodot. He should behave with the holiday. Medina Hamadinot, the laws of the land. Shehem Lamala Mitzadi Malot Dinan. The Inyan Moadim Kimul Inyan Shabbat is far Yidbayer b'siman. Okay, so basically you treat it like you would treat any other time you don't know what day it is, and you should if for whatever reason you don't know what day it is, you should assume that Shabbat just ended and count 7 days to the next week. And he's got here the halachot of Shabbat Hagadol. And he says here, there is a custom, and it's a famous custom. Not everybody agrees with it, as we're about to see. But it says that Haggadah mitchilat avadim hayinu ad lechaper al kol avonatehem is a custom to say the Haggadah from avadim hayinu. Start there, and there's the second or third line of the Haggadah, up until the end of the song of what's it called? Dai Dayenu, almost. Right? Hayinu lechaper al kol avonateinu lefisha hayta bo hatchilat hageula, because that in itself, that part is the beginning of the geula, and that's what we're celebrating on Shabbat Hagadol. Shabbat Hagadol is really the beginning of the whole master plan that Hashem had to rescue the Jewish people. That's when the Egyptians didn't bother about their God being sacrificed by the Jews, and it became clear that Hashem was doing miracles to save the there are miracles being done to save the Jewish people and to build us into the nation that we became. So that's what you read on Shabbat Hagadol. There's a custom to do that. Bagra lo haya noag b'zeh. The Vilna Gaon did not have this custom. Shum de'ita b'Haggadah yachol b'ma'od yom chule. He said you should only say the Haggadah on the day itself. In other words, on Pesach itself, not on any other day, but on Pesach itself. It's a mitzvah to read the Haggadah. We don't just play around with it and read half of it here, half of it there. Read the whole thing through when you're supposed to read it. Poskim lomar. Other poskim say Baruchi Nafshi. People should say Baruchi Nafshi. That chapter in Tehillim that many people say Erev Shabbat anyway. So seems to be a custom to say Baruchi Nafshi on Shabbat Hagadol itself. All right, we have some time. We can get right into Zman B'dikat Chametz. So, couple of things. The truth is, I think it's a little too early to learn about looking for chametz. Let's talk about what is chametz. Okay, chametz is bread. Okay, it's any kind of wheat that has been allowed to rise, and for it to be a problem on Pesach, it needs to be the size of a kazayit. Zayit means olive, so the size of an olive. Now, as you may know, as you might have noticed from the charts or how much you've seen yeshiva bacher eat of matzah, because during the seder, a kazayit isn't the size of an olive as we see it. It's actually not just size; it's the volume of an olive, and it's not just any olive, but what the Chazal or what the Torah considered the size of an olive many years ago. So that size seems to have changed. That's the first thing you need to understand. The size of an olive seems to have changed. It used to be that an olive was not this small, but it was quite a bit bigger and could literally fill up somebody's mouth, more or less. That being said, the amount of chametz that could create a problem is that amount. Okay? So if you find a crumb on the floor on Pesach, what are you going to do? First of all, you're not going to not worry about it. because you've done all kinds of things to make sure that that crumb doesn't matter to you. Let's go over some of the things you've already done. During the B'dika Chametz, amongst other things, you made a declaration after you searched all around the house. You've searched, you've looked for crumbs and bread and everything else, and you've searched, you've done your best, and at the end of all of this searching, what are you supposed to say? You're supposed to say, anything I didn't find is ka'afar da'ara. It's like the dust of the earth. It means nothing to me. I'm not going to eat it. I don't care about it. I don't own it anymore. This is not the first time, by the way, that you should have thought about the fact that you don't care about something that might be so small that it's barely visible. What do I mean? On Shabbat, you ate at somebody's house and you started walking home. You look down at your shirt, your skirt, whatever it is you're wearing, and you see that attached to it is some of the food you were just eating, right? Some crumbs are attached to you. Oi, you were walking outside on Shabbat with this attached to you. You were carrying. Oh no, is that going to be okay? You have to go fall on the floor and beat yourself up over it? No. Whatever you carry that you didn't even think about, you didn't take ownership of intentionally, and it's too small or anything considerable, is not considered carrying. There's a whole chapter in Tractate Shabbat about how big something needs to be or how small it needs to be for it to still matter, right? Like a piece of cloth. What's the smallest piece of cloth that you can carry on Shabbat? And the biggest piece of cloth that you can carry on Shabbat and it still not mean anything depends on what the uses of a cloth were. They used to use a cloth that was about yay big to cover the something to be like the cover of a bottle. So if that's still usable, so it doesn't matter that it's not something you care about. It's big enough that it's still useful. Let me explain to you something if you didn't already figure this out. A crumb of bread is not useful. You can't do anything with it. Yeah, maybe Indiana Jones can try to steal can put some crumbs on something to pick up an idol and not affect him. But even that didn't work out so well. The point is that crumbs don't mean much, and they're not the problem on Pesach. They are not the issue. If they get in your food, okay, so now there's something to talk about. But owning crumbs is not the problem. The problem is bal yira, bal yamas. So which is you're not supposed to own actual wheat products that have risen over Pesach. And it doesn't matter if you see them or not. If you own them and they're accessible to you, then it's a problem. What do I mean by you own them and they're accessible to you? As many of you know, there is the ability that we have, thanks to the rabbis, to sell chametz. To sell the chametz that you own, at least temporarily. It's supposed to be really, when you're doing it, you're supposed to have in mind that it's a permanent sale. It's a real sale. And the Gentile who bought it can come to your house at any time and get it, which is why you give the rabbi who's buying the chametz, who's selling the chametz through you, not really buying the chametz, selling the chametz through whom you are selling your chametz. That rabbi asks you, in theory, he should ask, what room in the house is this chametz? Unless it's a whole business, and that's a different issue. So the document that is signed by the rabbi, it's signed by the Gentile, is a real legal document. And we go through, if you've studied any Talmud and you know that certain things are acquired in different ways. Animals can be acquired by pulling, real estate can be acquired by settling. Most objects that are movable objects are acquired by lifting up, amongst other things. Document, handshake, exchange of money, and lifting up. It definitely makes it so that whatever you bought is yours. The Gentile has to go through all of these things. There's a money exchange. There's a document exchange. There's a discussion. There's a handshake. I don't know about with COVID, but there's also the very real possibility, and he lifts up the document. There's a very real possibility that the Gentile is allowed to go to your house and take whatever it is you bought. Usually in the document, just so you can be calm about this, that's going to be an unusual thing, because one of the things that it says in the document is that if the Gentile, who's already paid for the stuff, by the way, he bought it, if he decides that he's going to go in and get anything from it, then he's taking on a new level of the ownership, which makes it that he has to pay even more money, and then he's going to own everything. And that more money could be millions and millions of dollars. Now, it could be, as it was, this might just be an urban legend, but there are stories told about a Gentile, and I think it was I don't want to make a mistake here, but I'm pretty sure it was in Montreal or some other city like that, where the Gentile who bought the stuff decided he was going to go and get the stuff, and he paid for it eventually, and he indeed owned all of the chametz that he bought, all of the chametz. Now, included in that sale, which was not why it wasn't necessarily a bad idea, included in the sale was an actual business that sold very expensive, whiskeys and things like that, a liquor store. So the Gentile owned that, and he was able to. Again, this might be an urban legend, but the fact is, when the Gentile buys the chametz, he is the owner completely of that chametz. The Gentiles, of course, allowed to own chametz over Pesach, not a problem. We are not. So, so let's go back now that we've had that introduction about what chametz is. Let's go back to Zman B'dikat Chametz. Min haTorah Sagi Kishmevatel et hachametz. According to Torah law, it's enough to just say that proclamation that we say that basically says all chametz is now the dust of the earth to me. I don't care about it at all. The Kishmevatlo umafkiro shuv enu shelo. It's not yours anymore, but enu over alav mashikatu sagi. So he's it's perfectly okay. You don't own it anymore. You said it doesn't belong to me. You were mevatel it. You made it total, which means you nullified it. After you checked, after you looked for it, mechafesh achra v'baru mina olam, then you burnt it out of this world. Afal pisha ena mevatlo chazal achmiru delo sagi. But if you checked and then you burnt the chametz, but didn't make that declaration, your batal, that you nullified it, the rabbis are strict and they say it's not enough. That's not enough. You need to actually make that declaration. It is enough to just make the declaration. It is not enough to look for chametz and burn all your chametz. If you didn't make that declaration, there could be problems. And the rabbis are strict about this. You need to do both, and you have to do both, right? There's two declarations, actually. There's a declaration at night after you checked, and there's a second declaration after the burning the next day. It really kind of depends on your machshava, your thoughts and your intentions, and your knowledge level. Maybe a person might be afraid that they own some chametz. Ba'ad kama alafim hakpir ba'af shebepiv yoma sheyeh batel v'hefker chashiv kafra mikomakom libo lokain. It could be that you own a lot of chametz. Now, here's the thing: intention is important here. If you say all of the chametz that I own over Pesach is like nothing to me, but it is something to you, and as you care about it, you're thinking about it, and you know that you own it, then it's a problem. If you think that this sale that you're doing with the non-Jew that we just talked about is a fake sale, it's just you're just going through the motions, and it's what we call a legal fiction. So that's a big problem. You need to know in your heart that when you sell your chametz, you're actually selling your chametz, and you need to know in your heart that when you say whatever chametz I find after this point is null, it's not anything to me, it's dust of the earth. You have to know that that's a serious thing. So even if you're not, I don't know, I don't remember if I checked this cabinet. I don't know if I have some expensive whiskeys there. If you didn't check that cabinet, you find out on Pesach you have some very expensive whiskeys there. I'm sorry to tell you this, but they're not yours anymore. You cannot own them. There are ways to get rid of it. We're not going to talk about. There's no time right now to get into the details of how to do it, but you have to do it in a way that you can benefit from. Basically, pour it out. I guess you did have time for it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be over you're going to be you're subjecting yourself to the possibility of being of transgressing this problem of owning chametz on Pesach. So that's why the rabbis make this zera that you should say this bittul. It's an important thing to say, and obviously the members of your family should hear this. By the way, I don't see where he says this here, but obviously this is after you've checked well and you found whatever you needed to find, and you right before you burn. Sorry, after you check and right before you burn, you say this declaration. So that's that. Now we know this is not relevant for this year, but we know that there are times when Erev Pesach is Shabbat, and you want to do the bitul chametz then. You can't burn it. So what do? So you can flush it down the toilet. That's one of the things you can do. And the important thing is to say this declaration and to mean it when you say it. Next halacha, bet. And the ideally, like somebody who has the strength, the physical fortitude to look for the chametz should be checking. And you're supposed to use and the light of the day. Lo yol is that when it's if you're checking while it's still light out, it's not going to be helpful. You need to really be able to check very carefully. Tiknu levdok leor haner. That's why the rabbis made a takana that you should use the light of a candle. By the way, he doesn't say this, but there are opinions that you should use a flashlight. I prefer using a flashlight. One of the reasons is you have less of a chance of starting a fire, and you're less worried about getting into the cracks and crevices. It gets hot, etc., etc. It can, if you're close to materials, they can go on fire. So it's much safer. You'll be doing it much more confidently if you use a good strong flashlight. By the way, I'm not making this halacha up. It's not just a chiddush. Keep in mind that the rabbis themselves said it's ideal not to use a torch. You think a torch would be great, a whole lot of light. So the rabbi said you shouldn't use a torch. One of the reasons might be because it is a dangerous thing to walk around the house and all the drapes and everything with the torch. Can you imagine that? Anyway. You should check at night. You should check with an artificial light. He's saying candle. I'm saying maybe flashlight. That light will magnify, will intensify what you're looking for so much better than the light of the day. And there's really it's ideal to look at a certain time. You're supposed to really look as soon as you can, as soon as you come home from shul. As soon as the 3 stars come up, that's when you should look for chametz, and you should do it as soon as possible. The cleaning should have been done by now. You can even say some of the cooking should have already been done by now. Erev Pesach isn't the day to clean. Erev Pesach is the day to already like set stuff up, whatever you want to do. But it's not, the cleaning should have been done quite a bit before. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to have classes like this so much before Pesach, so that when Pesach happens, it won't be such a surprise, it won't be a scary thing. And we'll be able to go into the Zman Geula biyachad together and only see good things from our efforts. I'm going to stop the live feed to Facebook and stop the recording.